Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for whoever you're joining me. Thank you for your time. And today's daf is daf 75 on A of Bava Metzia. So let's dive straight in. Halveini kol chitin mekozates lo domim. Who's lu nosein lo chitim? Huku nosein the mayhem. Lend me a quart of wheat, and I lend them a set price. It's prohibited to buy a say of wheat in exchange for a say of wheat, unless the price of wheat is fixed, meaning one must repay a loan with the same amount of wheat that was borrowed, even the price of wheat appreciates. If these two parties neglected to set a fixed price, and the wheat appreciated in value, the borrower must repay him in accordance with the value of the wheat at the time of the loan. If the wheat depreciated in value, he gives them back a say of wheat. And that's in Bava Metzia 10:3 to 4 Shulchan Aruch Yodea 162:1. Even though he spoke of a loan, since he said the price, it is deemed a valid sale completed right away, and there is no concern if the market price subsequently changes, and that's the base Aaron. Saying that the borrower must repay the wheat in the future according to the value of wheat at the time of the loan. If by the time the borrower must repay the loan, the wheat depreciation value, he gives the lender a quantity of wheat equivalent to what he borrowed, and if it appreciates, he gives the value of the wheat he borrowed as per the market rate when he borrowed it, as agreed, but no more. The more question is ruling: if the price of wheat depreciates, why should it be permitted for the borrower to pay him with wheat worth less than the amount of the value that he borrowed? But if he fixed the price at the time of the loan, and therefore the borrower owes him this amount of money, Sheshet said, this is what the Tana is saying: if the lender did not set a price, but merely lent him wheat and depreciated in value, the lender takes his wheat, as they did not agree that the borrower must repay the wheat according to the value at the time that the loan was taken out. And if it appreciates in value, the borrower gives the value of the wheat he borrowed as per the market rate when he borrowed it, in order to avoid the payment of interest. A person may not say to another, lend me a quart of wheat, and I will give you back at the time the wheat is brought to the granary, as the wheat may increase in value, which would mean that when he gives them back a quart of wheat, at the time when the wheat is brought to the granary, it was more than the value of the loan, and therefore he would have paid interest. But he may say to him, lend me a quart of wheat for a short period of time, until my son comes, until I find the key. What does that mean? Alveni ad she'emsa mafteach. Since he's in possession of the produce, it is as though he designated it as repayment for him at the time of the loan, as he needs only to find the key in order to give it to him. Rabbi Zakaria Ramati citing Rabbi Baruch HaSephardi, as there's no concern about a change in price during such a short interval of time. And Hillel prohibits the practice even in this case. And Hillel would similarly say, the early commentaries disagree as to whether the entire mission is referring to a case where there is a set price for the food in question, or whether only the first clause in the mission is addressing an item that has a set price, or the latter clause is speaking of food without a set price. And Hillel adds that these concerns apply even to a small item such as loaf of bread. According to the second explanation of the commentaries, they're saying that even in that case, when inevitably given for a short period of time, there is still concern that one may transgress the prohibition of interest, see the rif and the ravid and the machomat Hashem. A woman may not lend a loaf. No talve isha kika. Hillel mentioned this example in order to emphasize that even in the case of neighbors who are not usually particular with each other, one should nevertheless be stringent to another unless she establishes its monetary value, lest we appreciate value before she returns it, and they will therefore have come to transgress the prohibition of interest. Rav said, one who has a sayer of an item in his house may borrow a sayer of that item. Since he has available a sayer he could give back right away, he may borrow one sayer, and similarly if he has two sayer available, he may borrow two sayer. Rabbi Yitzchak says, even if he has only one sayer, he may borrow several core in reliance upon it. The Torah's Chaim reasons that once one has borrowed a certain amount, it is considered as though he is in possession of twice the original amount of wheat, and therefore he can borrow this amount once again, and so on. The Gon Svi claims that Rav Huna rejects this reasoning, as he maintains that a loan is not viewed as its own property, because it is given to be used, not kept. When in possession of a small amount of a certain type of food, may borrow several seah in reliance upon that food, and must return a seah for a seah. One may borrow in this manner, even if the food is locked away and he has no key and no other direct access to it at the time. One desiring to lend food to another who has no food of that type may give, or even lend food of that type, and then subsequently lend more of that food in reliance upon food now in the borrower's possession. If a borrower owns food that was deposited with a third party, it is considered his possession, but to a debt owed to him by others is not viewed as belonging to him. Rambam says, "Mishpat Mechamav V'Lo 10:2, Yodei 162:2, and in the comment of the Mar. Since he can repay part of the loan immediately, and as the market value has yet to change, there is only a concern about future interest. This concern is mitigated when it does not apply to the entire loan." The Gemara comments, Rabbi Chia teaches that Baita is part of Rabbi Yitzchak's ruling. If one does not have a drop of wine, or if he does not have a drop of oil, he may not borrow wine or oil. Consequently, by inference, it can be derived. If he does have a drop of wine or oil, he may borrow many drops in reliance upon it, as the Tana is certainly not referring to a case where he borrows just a few meager drops. The Mishnah teaches, and Hillel prohibits his practice. Rav Nachman says that Shmuel says that Allah is in accordance with the statement of Hillel, more common, is not in fact in accordance with the ruling of Shmuel. The Mishnah further teaches, and Hillel would similarly say, a woman may not lend even a loaf of bread. She is considered to violate the prohibition of interest. Rabbi Yehuda says that Shmuel says this is the statement of Hillel. The rabbi said that one may borrow various food types without specification and repay them without specification. If neighbors are not particular with one another about these items, there is no concern about interest, in contrast to Hillel's opinion. Malva isha kika lachaveota. Some authorities render it permitted for one to lend a loaf of bread for a loaf in return. The people are not particular about such items. Rashi talks about Torah, Chomet Hashem. The Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, render it permitted, but the custom is to be lenient. The Rambam says, Mishpat Mechamav V'Lo 10:2, Shulchan Aruch Yodei 162:1, and then the comment of the Rambam. And Rabbi Yehuda says that Shmuel says, with regard to the members of a group of people that eat together who are particular, B'nei Chavura Hamakfikin, members of a group particular with each other and who exchange their portions or lend food to one another on Shabbat or festival, transgress the prohibition against measuring, weighing, and counting, as well as the prohibition against lending and repaying on Shabbat. Many authorities see Ben Yosef and Abba Chaim 517 and with this halacha, as they maintain that there is nothing unique about the members of a group with regard to these halachot. And say from Nazik and Hilchot Neighbor 7:10. With each other and insist that they pay precisely for what he ate. If they then together on Shabbat, they don't get the prohibition with regard to restrictions of measure. Over Mishum Midrachu, it appears that Rashi and Tosfot maintain that they violate the rabbinical decrees against measuring, weighing, or counting on Shabbat or festival. The Bible, by contrast, explains that since they are particular with each other, they are considered robbers if they do not give back to one another the exact amount, and therefore they transgress the prohibition of robbing or cheating with regard to measuring, weighing, and counting. With regard to restrictions of weight and with regard to restrictions of counting, all of which are calculations that are forbidden on Shabbat. Mishum Mida Misko Minyan. By Torah law, there is no prohibition against measuring, counting, or weighing on Shabbat. Nevertheless, it is decreed that one may not perform any sort of calculation on Shabbat out of concern that one would mark down figures and sums, as writing is one of the 39 prohibited labors on Shabbat. The rabbinic restriction was intended to prevent the violation of the Torah prohibition. Bava Metzia in Zemanim Hilchos Shabbat 23:13 by permitting to employ a tool such as a measuring tape to determine the size of something by mere counting, such as measuring the length of a room by counting the number of floor tiles. When they transgress a prohibition with regard to lending and repaying on a festival, and according to the statement of Hillel, they also transgress the prohibition with regard to interest. Although they are particular with each other, they do not wish to appear stingy, and therefore they add a little extra to what they give back, which is deemed interest, and that's in the Raza. And Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says it's permitted for the Torah scholars to borrow from one another with interest. Talmidei Chachamim Tom Lilvos Zemizer Beribis. The Ramban greatly limits the extent of this leniency by saying that it applies only to small amounts and to food required for a meal, and it applies only if both parties are Torah scholars. This is the Melech adds that they must both know that neither of them is overly concerned about money. The Gemara explains what is the reason for this. It is because they are fully aware that interest is prohibited, and therefore they do not intend the loan to be a formal business transaction. They willingly forego the additional payments to each other at the outset, and extra payment is a gift they give one another. If Torah scholars lent each other food and the borrower returned to the lender up to 1/5 more than the amount he took, this is permitted, as the borrower undoubtedly gave him as a gift, as explained by the Ramban. The Ramban writes that some permit this practice even if he stipulated outside they must give him more. Some authorities have guided Mayiniyot and Smad comment that it's certainly improper to do so on a regular basis, as this may mislead the public. The Rambam Mishpat Mechamav Velo 49 Shulchan Yodea 160:17. The Gemara relates, Shmuel said to Abu Ba'iyah, lend me 100 peppers in exchange for 120 peppers that I'll give you at a later date. And you should know that this matter is fitting. What does that mean? The Ramban and the Ran explain that this exchange did not involve interest at all, as Shmuel merely told his friend that he was taking a certain quantity of peppers from him, but would certainly not be particular to give him back the precise number of peppers he took. And even if it would be found that he added an extra fifth, the generosity, not interest, and appropriate, as I intend the additional 20 peppers to be a gift. Similarly, Rabbi Yehuda says about it, it's permitted for a member to lend to his sons and members of his household. The Torah Chaim claims this refers only to those family members whom he supports, and there's no interest here at all, since all the money is actually his. With interest, it's permitted to lend money with interest even to the members of one's own household, and this is the halacha even if the one paying the additional sum is not particular, and even if he informs the recipient that it is a gift. The Rambam says, Mishpat Mechamav Velo 48 Shulchan Yodea 168. In order to have them taste the taste of interest, the commentators disagree as to whether he would lend to them or borrow from them. According to the opinion that he would lend to them with interest, his concern was that they might get used to borrowing in this manner and continue borrowing from others in this way without realizing that he lent money to them in this manner and only to educate them, but not as a real loan. That's Rabbi Baruch HaSefadi. Alternatively, he wanted them to experience how beneficial interest is to the lender in order to increase their reward when they refrain from addressing in this fashion, as the sponsor of the RIF, so that they will understand how interest increases and how hard it is to repay it, which will discourage them from ever borrowing with interest again. The Gemara comments, but this is not correct, because a member of the household may become corrupted by doing so and act similarly with others in cases where there is no justification for such behavior. In Mishnah, Omar Adam Lachaveru, a person may say to another, weed the wild growth from my field with me now, and I will wield the field with you at a later stage. One may not perform work on the condition that he will perform a more laborious task later in return, performing even the same work is prohibited if the latter is obligated to perform them at a time when it's more difficult, e.g. due to a change in weather. Some authorities learn from here that it's permitted to lend money to another on condition that the other will lend money to him in return, but it's clear that it is not the same as performing work for each other. In the case of work, an employer must certainly compensate the worker. In regard to a loan, the borrower repays the money, but if the borrower also provides the lender with a loan of his own, this could be considered interest. That's the Bava Metzia from his Padma Hilchah Belova 711 Shulchan Aruch Yoreh 169. Later stage, or till my feel with me today, and I will till with you on a different day. But he may not say to him, weed with me today, and I will till with you a different day, or till with me today, and I will weed with you. As due to the different nature of the task, it is possible that one of them will have to work harder than the other did, which type of interest, since he repaid him with additional labor. That's the end of the Omen. Thank you for listening. Wish you a good day, and peace and better news in Israel. Take care. Bye.